So I've been getting a lot of comments on my welds. A lot of people are saying that they look like they're not done right. They look like the welder wasn't tuned in properly. That's not the case at all. The welds are very strong. They penetrate very good in the metal. The reason I'm doing this unfinished look on the weld is the car has got to look like it's unfinished. And I'm using the older style welds as is 20 years ago, trying to mimic them with my welder. So for instance, the welds that I have on the car right now, you'll see the stitch welds, the spot welds, and some line welds, and you'll see they look completely unfinished. It's done on purpose. The welds are penetrating very well. Yes, I am using a little bit more MIG welder, but that's the whole idea. The car's got to look unfinished because it's a rat rod, and the rat rod's supposed to look unfinished, but they're actually more functional than you may think. The paint is not finished. It's all a rough finish by Mother Nature herself. The patina on the cars is over 80 years old. So I have to match the welds accordingly. So in my case, the way I like to do it, I even make the roof that I'm putting on with patches instead of nice straight pieces. I got a little piece I done for a demonstration. I actually use pieces like this to dial in my welder. The first set of welds here, I've been trying to do a spot weld on top of flat metal with my welder with 035 wire, which is a typical wire to use. And you can see the welds are actually floating on top of the metal, so I don't have enough heat in the welder. So I've done a mimic of a spot weld here, I've done a mimic of my stitch weld, and I did a mimic of a long weld. So none of these are sunk in properly. After dialing in the welder, I'm able to get a little bit more penetration, which you see on this side. So these are still a test piece, but as you can see, these have penetrated a little bit more into the metal. I've backed off on the feet a little bit so they're not over full. The stitch welds are actually coming together quite nice, and my long weld I can fill in quite a bit with it. So that's the setting I'm using for now. Then I'll start over on top where my seams are, and I'll do a spot weld like this. This is a kind of weld you can use to look like a rivet when you buff it down. Then you have a full penetration spot weld. That's a structurally sound weld. You can grind that down, you wouldn't see it again, but in my case again I leave them exposed. Then after that I start with my stitch welds. So I have a heavier weld here that don't look like a spot weld, and it's overbuilt, so it looks like an older weld that was done in the day. Let's say somebody did one with a torch and a coat hanger. After that, you see I have my stitch welds that I still use from back in the day to look like a coat hanger weld that people were using. These came out really nice. Their penetration is really good. Further on down, I have a line weld in between both panels. It's actually a really thick one. It's penetrated really well, so grinding this down on the first try, you wouldn't even see it. Once again, in my case, if I did one like this on the car, I would leave it also exposed as well. So there you go. Now you see how I dialed in the welder, the welder dialed in after, and the types of welds that I use on my rat rods. So if you have any questions about the types of welds that I'm using, any questions on the rat rods that I'm building, feel free just to go on my site, ratrodnorth.com. You can tweet me on there, you can leave a comment form, and I'll read everything that you guys send me.